Now, you might not be able to tell right now, but in a few minutes, this entire table is going to be filled with folks coming in to check out Smoked's Oyster Series with wine pairings, education, and oysters from around the country. Smoked is located downtown in Columbia and offers seafood lovers an upscale dining experience. There's a bar that sits right in the center of the restaurant that is illuminated by natural skylights, where all of the presentations for the Oyster Series takes place. The evening begins with an explanation of the event and an introduction of the chefs and sommelier. Then the fun begins. The series starts with 2 oysters, one that has been flavored to perfection and one that is straight from the water. Throughout the entire process, attendees are given a description of the flavors and facts about each particular oyster. Then we will learn more about the wine that will be paired with them.
We're starting today with a Pacific West Coast oyster called Spanish Bay out of Washington. They're kind of sweet. A lot of the oysters you're going to get in the Pacific West Coast are going to finish with a lot more of a sweet, tangy finish.
So first we have from the Fowles Wine Company, ladies who shoot their lunch Riesling. So Fowles Wine Company is from the southeastern border of Australia, kind of a few miles off of Melbourne, which might be surprising to you because typically when we hear Riesling, we think Germany. Yes. But Riesling is actually grown all across the world. So Riesling is a cold weather grape. Typically in Germany, the cold weather is where Riesling does best. And Australia is actually going to be a warm climate, but because of the elevation where the grapes are grown and the breeze coming off the coast, it provides enough cold weather for the Riesling grape to thrive. So another thing you may think when you hear Riesling is this dense, sweet grape, but Riesling is actually a highly versatile grape. Depending on where it's grown, it can have vastly different flavors.
Oysters to me are almost like an open vessel because you can play with like what goes on top of it. They already add flavor to it, and you know, there's so many ways you can manipulate what's going on around it. So I took some of our vanilla bourbon sweet potato casserole that I made, toasted marshmallow, and then candied walnuts on top of it.
All right, y'all, we're getting ready to try a sweet potato oyster, so wish me luck.
Oh yeah. I really like it. Now, like I said when we started out, it was a bit of a challenge for this one, but I like the challenge. So
This is actually really good.
oysters, you're typically going to do a white wine, but when you're going over the things you're bringing a bottle.
That was shockingly very good. That was actually really good.
Many of you may not be familiar with the Bow Ball. It's actually the 3rd most planted grape in Spain. So this is going to be a ripe grape, a lot of prominent fruit flavors, but it has very, very subtle tannins. So a lot of the reasons you don't see red wine with oysters is because the tannins on red wine, kind of that drying sensation when you get a cab, those will clash with the flavor of the oyster. This is a really good red wine to pair with this particular course because it has a lot of those ripe fruit flavors you get from a red wine without all of the tannins. So you can get it paired with an oyster and it won't clash.
So the oyster itself is a Casco Bay oyster. They're from Maryland and they're medium in size. We have our sizing charts and we have our finishing brines that we do on our oysters. So we'll label them with a finish and a brine level as well. So on this oyster, I labeled it a 4 brine levels, a little bit higher in the sodium count. Along with the finish, I did a mineral finish. So when you taste the oyster itself, you'll find a mineral finish to be behind it. So that's getting the oyster itself out of the way. Like I said, it's from Maryland and they're a nice little medium-sized oyster. So for the spruced up second course itself, we have wonton-shaped oyster shells. So I took these wonton chips right here and I molded them in the shells themselves, creating little oyster shells in themselves, and then we put the oyster in there. I then took a lemon and honey foam that I mixed with some soy lecithin and I put it right on top, and it's just a very big voluptuous foam right there, and it's sitting on top of a lot of nice heirloom beads. The peas themselves, so the beans are not edible. I would not recommend eating those. They're just for plating. So it has some beans, lentils, and sprouts in there and just some minute stuff. But yeah, the chip itself is just a nice crunch and it has the foam itself.
I was very impressed by the creativity, the presentation, and the flavors the chef was able to create with the oysters. Before today, I had a chance to experience past oyster and wine pairings with Smoked, and it was a pleasure to learn how much the series has grown. But the food wasn't the only enjoyable portion of the experience. It was great to fellowship with the other attendees and listen to their reactions to the food. If you're a seafood lover, I highly recommend checking out the Oyster Series every other Tuesday night. Bring a friend and an open mind for an evening of oysters and wine. And if you don't like oysters, you're welcome to order from their regular menu too.